Eternal Champions. The game that wasn't quite Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, but Sega tried really hard with this one. Sega knew the fighting game genre was heating up, and they wanted to capitalize on that, so they started work on Eternal Champions. They actually used a focus group to help design the characters of the game. They really wanted to make sure this one was going to be a hit with the gaming world, and in 1993, Eternal Champions hit store shelves for the Sega Genesis. The game plays like most 2D fighters with low, medium, and high punch and kick attacks, along with the type of special moves you would come to expect from a game like this. And if you're new to the game or just rusty, you can always check out the training mode, where you can take part in different exercises like battling practice spheres or head into the battle room for a quick one-on-one practice fight. The special moves are performed a bit like other 2D fighters. Most of the moves are charge moves, as in hold back and slide forward with an attack button. Another popular command is pressing all 3 punch or all 3 kick buttons together to pull off a move. It feels a bit weird not having quarter-turn moves as you would find in Street Fighter and most of the SNK fighters, but I guess Sega was just trying to set themselves apart a bit, and that's not bad. It just takes a minute to get used to if you've got a lot of Street Fighter hours under your belt. Sega knew that Mortal Kombat struck gold with fatality moves, and therefore wanted to implement something similar in Eternal Champions. Each stage has a finisher move called an Overkill. And these are pretty cool, but I find them pretty hard to pull off, as they don't require special button combinations, but instead your opponent must die in a certain spot on each level for it to work. And after playing the game for a few hours to gather footage, I could only seem to witness one of these. And of course I was the victim. Visually, I have mixed feelings about the game. I love how the sprites are bigger than average fighters and have such a good amount of detail. And I love the backgrounds. Most 2D fighters at the time had very little movement in the levels, and if there was, it was usually 2 simple frames, while in this game, the level designs are animated very smoothly. On the other hand, the game has kind of a grainy look to it. I don't know if it has something to do with the resolution, maybe limitations of the Genesis, or maybe it's just meant to look like that, but I think if it were smoothed out a bit more, it could really look amazing. Now, if you're a fan or were a fan of rap in the 1990s, here's a quick pop quiz for you. Name this song. Anybody? Bone Thugs and Harmony actually sampled that very song from the game in 1995, and guess what they named the song? That's right, Eternal. So, I guess we know what they were doing with their spare time. Sega fans. Anyway, the music is actually really good. I like the way Sega took advantage of their twangy synth MIDI sounds for the game. The sound effects are pretty generic. For the most part, they sound like they were ripped right from Street Fighter, but that's not a bad thing. They sound good. There are taunts in the game where your fighter says something stupid to your opponent, but they kind of sound strange. I mean, you ever watch those ghost shows where they capture the spirits talking into their little digital voice recorders and they play it back and it's barely like a mumbled whisper? That's kind of what these sound like. And it's really the only voices in the game. There's no grunts, no moans, no round 1 fight, no you win. Just this. I like the characters in this game. Apparently they come from all different points in time, and apparently they're all good guys who have died before they could perform their future-altering task in life. And now they're battling it out for one more chance to live. I think. Don't quote me on that. wasn't really paying attention. The storyline was actually kind of boring me. Don't get me wrong, a nice storyline is always good to have, but not really vital in a fighting game, and when it comes down to it, it's really about the fighting. So there's this 1920s detective-looking guy who might be my favorite just off of cool factor alone. Then there's Blade. He's Blade? As you can see, the fighters are definitely unique. They're all fun to give a go at least once, and there should be a favorite in the game for just about any fighting game fan. Sega pushed this game pretty hard. At one point there was even an Eternal Champions flavored Slurpee at 7-Eleven, complete with collector cups. The game did well enough to spawn a Sega CD sequel and even a few spin-offs, not to mention a famous rap group sampling music from the game. But for some reason, Sega gave up on Eternal Champions, and the third installment that was set to drop on the Sega Saturn faded into the darkness. Eternal Champions isn't a great game. I'm not saying it's a bad game, it's definitely a good game. But great game level for me is Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and Fatal Fury, and this game just isn't on that level. But ask any real fighting game fan, and they'll tell you it is a must-own regardless.